Hello, and an early Happy New Year to everybody. For the last video review of the year, I wanted to do a brief, and I will keep it as brief as possible, review of David Lynch's final film, Inland Empire, which was released in 2006 and revised somewhat in 2022 by Janus Films. I have just recently watched the Criterion collection edition of this on Tubi, which is available for free, and I highly recommend it. To say this movie is strange is an understatement, even for Lynch, which is saying quite a lot. Just to give you a brief précis, because I don't want to ruin or spoil this movie for anyone who hasn't seen it. It's really very well worth watching, and you have to watch it. I hope you're in for a long watch, because it's 3 hours long, but it's worth it. There's no dull spaces in that entire time. It moves by like lightning. The basic story, without giving too much away, is it centers on Laura Dern, who is an actress who has just moved into a very elegant mansion, and she is trying out for a role in a movie and doesn't know if she's gotten it yet. She meets her rather odd next-door neighbor, played by Grace Zebriskie, who, of course, played Sarah Palmer in Twin Peaks. And she tells her this kind of odd, rhyme about a lost boy who opened the door to go outside and evil followed him. And we don't really know what that means. And then she said she changes it to a lost girl. And she says something about not knowing if it's today or yesterday or tomorrow. Says, if it was tomorrow, you'd know that you got the role. And then it skips forward in time, and she has the role. Her agent calls and says that she has the role. And she's very happy, and she goes to the studio and meets the director, who's played by Jeremy Irons, and his assistant, who is played by Dean Stanton. And they're going over the script and her co-star, who's played by Justin Theraux. Co-star's name is Devon, and her name is Nikki, and Nikki Blake. And in this screenplay they're doing is called On High in Blue Tomorrows, and is revealed by Jeremy Irons, rather, that despite what they thought, this is actually not. They read one scene, from it, and then I think it's Dean Stanton brings up that there's something odd, and makes Jeremy Irons tell them that this is not an original screenplay. It's a remake of a movie that was originally a Polish movie that was never completed because both of its stars were murdered, and it was just called 47. That comes up later, and again, I won't spoil that, because that's kind of an interesting way it comes up. The movie incorporates, in part of it, another Lynch project, which was just called Rabbits, and you can see the entirety of that out on YouTube, and it's quite worth watching. It's sort of non-linear. It doesn't make a whole heck of a lot of sense, but if you know Lynch, it's very artistic and interesting. The only problem I have is that it conceals Laura Harring's rather astonishingly beautiful face beneath a rabbit mask, but rabbit head, actually, I should say. And anyway, this actress starts to become sort of lose the boundary between herself, Nikki Blake, and the character she's playing, Susan Blue, in this movie. And in parts of it, she seems to be Susan, and parts of it, she seems to be Nikki, and parts of it, she seems to be a completely different person, or a different version of Nikki, who's living in a completely different place. She lives in a kind of a sleazy apartment somewhere in the Inland Empire. For those who don't know, the Inland Empire is an area of Los Angeles, in East Los Angeles, and also incorporates Riverside County and San Bernardino County. In that reality, her husband is sort of a creepy Polish guy who tells her, "I'm not what you think I am," and some other odd things. Again, I'm not going to give too much away here, because I think with Lynch, it needs to be viewed. It needs to be seen by you, and you need to interpret things for yourself. But what's basically going on, it's a kind of a stretch between a psychological thriller, a horror movie, a murder mystery, a ghost story, and something maybe in between. The subtitle, which was not included, but Lynch wanted to include it, was A Woman in Trouble. And yeah, it's a woman in trouble. But she's sort of in trouble with herself. And there's kind of an odd clue in here. I'm going to give this away because it doesn't give too much away. She keeps seeing signs that say AXXON01, and then there's an arrow that points to something, and she's meant to go investigate whatever it points to. For those unaware, an axon, AXON, is the communication system between the neuron and the brain. It's kind of the superhighway for information going to the brain. So the question becomes, are all these events, these strange events that happen to Nikki, only happening in her own mind? There's also kind of a strange thing about, and I made a whole lot of notes. I'm not going to refer to them because they'd go into way too much depth. But a couple of things I can mention here without spoiling too much. The strange journey that she goes on, both as Sue and as Nikki, is suffused with two colors which are primary in Lynch's palette, blue and red. For those who know Lynch and who've followed all of his works, blue stands for mystery and also sometimes death in Lynch's works. This is evident in the Blue Rose murders in Fire Walk with Me, which of course leads into Twin Peaks. The color blue featured a lot in Twin Peaks also. Laura had blue eyes, for one thing. And the color red in Lynch tends to mean something connected with the supernatural or the otherworldly. And there's a lot of red in this. There are red lamps, red curtains, which again we saw in Twin Peaks, the red curtains. Red lit areas and blue lit areas, which appear right before odd events occur. Lynch also incorporates his art film Rabbits, which I mentioned before. And at several points, it seems like Sue and or Nikki is able to communicate with the rabbits. She calls somebody and the telephone in the rabbit's apartment rings. And Jack, played by Scott Coffey, picks up the phone and says, hello. And she says, Billy, which is the name of the character that Devon plays in the movie. She's always asking for Billy throughout this thing. She never asks for Devon. She always asks for Billy, which seems to mean that she's losing herself in this character of Susan Blue. And we also see like some interviews with a psychiatrist where she's speaking as Susan Blue in a Southern accent, which is not her normal accent in the outside world, as it were, about all these horrible things that happened to her when she was a kid. You know, somebody tried to rape her and she gouged his eye out, and her husband tried to hit her with a crowbar and she kicked him really hard in the nuts, and things of that sort. All these awful. She went to a circus and there were like these rapist clowns or something horrible like that. So that's kind of the horror part of the story. And there's an odd parallel. This takes place both in Los Angeles and in Lodz, Poland. In the Lodz, Poland part, there's a different girl who is convinced that she's been hypnotized to murder someone. And somebody asks her, well, how are you going to do it? And she says, with a screwdriver. The screwdriver appears throughout several portions of the movie. At times, Nikki is carrying it. At times, this other girl is carrying it. And we don't really know the significance of that to the end, which again, I'm not gonna spoil for you because you should see it. It's something very stunning, and it's not what I expected at all. One of the things that Lynch seems to be playing with in this particular script is what I have referred to in a couple of my other videos as block universe theory. Briefly, what block universe theory is it's a theory that time is not an arrow leading from the past into the present and then into the future. It's all exists simultaneously. It's only our perspective that makes us believe that time is that way, but it's really probably more circular or perhaps cyclical, or perhaps it all occurs at once and we just don't have a way of viewing it that way. But it appears that Nikki might in this movie. Very well done. It won a Palme d'Or at the Cannes Film Festival for 2007, and a number of other awards. Critics really enjoyed it. It is unfortunately David Lynch's last film, as we lost him this year, rather unexpectedly. But I was always hoping that maybe we might get a little bit more of Twin Peaks, but that's obviously not going to happen now. Very well worth watching. Laura Dern gives an incredible performance, both as the actor and as the parallel character, Sue. And there's some really odd stuff that comes in and out. And again, I'm not going to spoil any of that for you because you really should see it. Again, Inland Empire, 2006, David Lynch's final movie.